That's Andy from Geno 3, and welcome to another podcast. In this episode, we are going to be joined by our Geno 3 nutritionist, Kirsty. How are you, Kirsty?
Oh, I'm really good, thank you. I'm really keen to get started with our series of nutrition pods.
Excellent. So you've kind of sort of alluded to that a little bit. Kirsty is going to be coming on for a few pods anyway. We've not probably finalised the number of them yet, but there'll be different themes that Kirsty is going to be focusing on. And this week's episode is going to be focusing specifically on fibre. So what we are going to be covering this week is what is fibre, why does diversity in the types of fibre we eat matter, how much should we be getting each day, and what does that exactly look like in reality? So we want to find out a little bit more about you, Kirsty, just a sort of background to nutrition and your approach, really, I suppose, to nutrition education, to kind of give our listeners a bit of an insight into what to expect in the series of pods. So over to you.
Well, thank you. So I'm a nutritionist and a former home economics teacher. I've not been in the classroom for about 5 years now. And my approach to nutrition is really to make it simple, to make it as easy to understand as possible, to do all that sciencey bit and reading and then simplify it for clients or anybody. Formerly, it would have been our pupils. And yes, I'm not in the classroom anymore, but that is where my passion is the education part of it. I remember when I was in the classroom that, well, you know what it's like because you're still in the classroom, but nutrition was always a really tough topic to teach.
Definitely, yeah.
Always met with a groan and a moan every time I said, right, we're doing nutrition. Everybody, like any year group, it wasn't met with a lot of excitement because it's so vast. And it's overwhelming. There's a lot of information and it changes all the time. And I think just people or pupils or anybody just goes, oh, switch off because it's too much. I'm here to help with that and hopefully make it as a little bit fun and use a few analogies to really bring it to life and help people bit by bit just go through all of the different bits on nutrition and hope that they can take something away from that.
Okay, and I'm sure all our listeners will, without a doubt. And I think your skill set, your knowledge and experience is going to come to the fore really throughout these podcasts. And I think it will hopefully be really helpful and I suppose really practical as well, because as you say, I mean, nutrition is vast. It's something that a lot of people find maybe tricky to navigate. People have an idea about sort of healthy diets and certain things that they've been advised to eat and consume and all that sort of stuff, portion size, all these types of things. It's vast, and sometimes that can be very, very overwhelming for people. So I'm sure you're going to make it much more easy to understand.
Yeah. And I add as well, like that these pods are hopefully designed for anybody to gain insight and be educated on quite hard information, not just a Geno 3 customer. Obviously our Geno 3 customers, they get a lot of nutrition insight, personalised nutrition insight in their Geno 3 report, where it looks at things like your high need nutrients or your increased need nutrients, your diet type, your meal timings, when you should be eating. We give you a superfoods list, so it tells you what your top 10 foods that you should be eating according holistically to your whole report. So there's a lot of food stuff in there, but these pods are going to be hopefully designed for anybody to take something away from them as well.
Perfect. So I suppose my first question really to you is, why have you chosen fibre as a first topic in this series of pods?
When I was asked to do them, it was the first thing that came to my mind because one, it's so underrated as a it's not really classed as a nutrient, but it's underrated as one of the types of foods people should be eating. And there's lots you can do with it in terms of making meaningful changes really quickly. It's linked to reducing obesity, it's linked to reducing inflammation, it's linked to type 2 diabetes prevention. I mean, what you can do with it is absolutely incredible. And also it's really having its moment at the moment in terms of media and how what you hear in the media as well. So where it's underrated, it's starting to come out in the forefront. Scientists are seeing a lot of new information coming out, and it's just starting to show actually I'm important too. And also I feel that if you increase your fibre as a starting point, if you're at the start of a health journey, it's a really, really good place to start. Because
why is that?
Well, naturally, if your goal is to increase fibre, you're naturally going to increase your fruit and veg. You're naturally going to reduce your processed food intake. And lots of people get overwhelmed with all the healthy eating messages that are on the TV or in the media or on social media or in a newspaper. Things like 5 a day, or reduce your sugar intake, or have 30 minutes of exercise a day, or you need to be calorie counting or calorie deficit. And it's overwhelming, and I think a lot of people switch off, and they just need somewhere to start. And then fibre is the perfect place, because if you can increase your fibre, then you'll naturally meet some of these goals. And then when you're ready and you've done a little bit, when you go to set your next health goal, I've increased my fruit and veg intake from 2 to 5. That was easy. So that's sort of why I've picked it. And as I said, it's underrated. It's something that lots of people have said to me, oh, how can I increase fibre? And I've had lots of people and lots of clients say, I need a bit more information on this. So that's why I picked it.
Okay. So I suppose for us to understand this a little bit better, we need to start to think about, well, what exactly is fibre? We hear about being talked about increasing fibre in our diet and sort of benefits of doing that. But what exactly is fibre, and where do you get it?
So, well, put simply, fibre is the part of any plant food that your body doesn't absorb when you eat it. So, for example, it's things like the skins of your fruit, like apple, or the skin of the cherry, or the skin of the grapes. They have the most fibre in them. Or the bits of the vegetables, like the broccoli stalks, they're really fibrous. And things like cucumber skin, the green bit on the cucumber. These other types, your beans, so the outer layer of like any type of bean, like baked bean or pinto beans or kidney beans, that red bit on the kidney beans. Or a really good example is sweet corn, because these bits of fibre, they basically go in your body and come out in the same way. So they're not digested by the body. So they stay mostly unchanged. And sweet corn is a perfect example for everybody, because everyone will remember that sweet corn comes out the same way it goes in when you
And
see.
it's that meme online that's seen in it. I think it's a scene from Pirates of the Caribbean, or Caribbean, however you are pronouncing it. And it's got like the guy walking down the ship, and all the ship around them's exploding, but he is sweet corn, and it basically passing through the body, and it's
Yeah,
sort of
that's
indestructible. So
that's a nice analogy. But yeah, so that's put simply exactly what it is in terms of it coming through your body undigested. So if you imagine the bit of sweet corn, along with lots of hydration, it keeps all your poo and everything really soft and bulky. A little story about soft and bulky. When I used to teach higher health and food tech, there's one class in particular, and there was a boy in that class, and his mission, every time we had a quiz or a test and fibre was mentioned, he said, I'm going to make sure I put soft and bulky in every single paper. And it was a standing joke in the class.
at least they remembered it, though.
No, he did, and everyone remembered it because of this conversation. And on his final exam, he went in, and I looked at the paper and I thought, please have that fibre.
Have a question about poo.
They'll all get the mark. And rightly, he came out and they all came down after the exam and he just shouted, soft and bulky, yeah, in the corridor. And I was like, what is that? So, yeah, you can remember that story. And I think he ended up getting an A. That class was actually the best class I ever had. And that boy ended up getting an A. And I'm like, well, it was probably the soft and bulky question that got it.
Tipped him over the edge there. I suppose, and that's the other thing which not everybody loves talking about is poo, but constipation's a big thing, isn't it? So how is that impacted then, really? Soft and bulky is what the consistency is, what you're aiming for, to not have constipation. But I suppose if people are having consuming particular foods that aren't sort of very fibrous, etc., constipation is going to be one of those things, isn't it?
Well, that's it. Exactly. And lots of people don't want to talk about it, but if you're straining on the toilet or you're struggling to go, or it's not soft and bulky and easy to pass, you're likely looking at a poor amount of fibre in your diet, and possibly water as well, because you've got to remember you can't just increase fibre without having a bit more water. Also, fibre isn't just about constipation. It also provides other nutrients. So if you're increasing your fibre, you're increasing your fruit and veg, your plant intake. So it provides, with the food that you're eating to increase your fibre, it's providing your vitamins and minerals anyway. So it's a great all-rounder. It's a great place to start.
Excellent. Okay. So quite often we hear about fibre diversity. So could you tell me a wee bit more about what fibre diversity is, and I suppose really kind of upskill our listeners with a bit of an insight into that?
So, well, yes, the last few years, as I've said, fibre's having its moment, but the scientific data, even in the time that I've been out the classroom, has just seems to have exploded a little bit on fibre, and the impact on the gut microbiome and what fibre does for the gut. And there's so much more we know about it now than ever before. In terms of the microbes, there's trillions of microbes, and scientists have found over 1,000 different bacteria species in gut samples. So even just those numbers blow people, they're blowing your mind. And then in terms of on an individual basis, the current sort of research and data says that generally an individual will host around 160 different species from that 1,000. So the more you have, it's generally thought that the more you have, the better it is for your health, in terms of inflammation, in terms of immunity and all sorts. So the data is still coming through, the science is still moving, but that's where we're at the moment. So yeah, it's important to have a really diverse range, and this is going to sound a bit weird, but one of my analogies, and I want you to think about your gut, is if you think about your gut or imagine it like a Scottish hill, and you want it to be full of lots of coloured heather, lots of trees, diverse wild flowers, a range of insects. You want it to be an enjoyable space to be in, and to have all those different flowers and heathers and all of that on your lovely, beautiful hill. You need to feed it a diverse range of foods. If you don't feed it a diverse range of foods, you're going to end up with a bald patch, dark, horrible hill that has no insects and nothing living on it.
Bit like Mordor from Lord of the Rings. There.
Yeah, like Mordor, exactly. So if you're eating a lot of processed foods and you're not giving your gut a lot of diversity or a lot of fibre, you're going to end up with Mordor. Nobody wants Mordor with the orcs and everything running about. Hey,
no danger, no danger. No.
So that's where, in the analogy, the different fibre types come in. You want to feed your gut the different fibre types, and that will help feed the different types of bacteria in your gut, which will then give you that nice support for a healthier, happier you, and it will help you have a robust gut microbiome, which specifically is linked to reduced risk of cardiovascular disease, reduced risk of type 2 diabetes, reduced obesity risk, decreased inflammation, reduced risk of certain cancers like colon cancer. And that is scientific fact. There is a link between increased fibre and colon cancer incidence, and it also enhances your immune function. So there's a lot of things involved with diversity, which we'll go into at the next pod. But yeah, think of it like a nice Scottish hill, and you want it to be lovely and diverse and full of colour, not Mordor in the Lord of the Rings.
Mordor.
And you'll end up
emphasise that.
I know, and constipated and struggling a little bit.
Just not a good place to be. Constipation in the nation. No, we don't want that, do we?
No, definitely not.
So I suppose that kind of brings us nicely on to sort of how much fibre do we need? We've talked about the fibre diversity. We've talked about what fibre is, why it's underrated, but in the sort of practicalities of things for our listeners, like how much fibre do we need?
So in terms of the exact amount, the NHS, obviously we're all about personalisation. So as a general rule by the NHS, you're looking at, they recommend 30 grams as a good place to start per day. Now that's a perfectly reasonable place to start. Some people may need more, but it's a good place to as a starting point. The average Brit is consuming around 18 grams per day. So on average, we're quite a bit off. That's quite well known. We're quite a bit off from what we should be at, probably because of the amount of processed foods and access to that, and the lack of whole foods that people are eating now.
So, with that in mind, what sort of things could people kind of do in order to get that 30 grams? If people are, obviously you're saying people are struggling to get that, and that's maybe through other processed foods, what are some of the kind of things that people could seek out in supermarkets to try and kind of increase and maybe get towards that 30 grams?
So I thought possibly a good example would be to just give a list of what 30 grams looks like for somebody in a typical day, and then that gives people an idea of what we're looking at. So this is what 30 grams looks like: 1 banana, 1 apple, 2 slices of wholemeal bread, a tablespoon of peanut butter, handful of almonds, baked potato and a half tin of beans, a serving of whole wheat pasta, 80 grams of cooked broccoli. Now that is 32 grams. So if you incorporated that in your day, that would give you 32 grams. Now that's hard. Do you like that? I think that's hard for a lot of people. That's quite hard. That sounds like a lot, especially if you're not used to eating a lot of whole foods and you eat maybe a bit more processed foods. So I understand that that's hard for a lot of people, but you can really increase it by, well, I personally do it by having lots of soups or making fruit salad, making sure I include nuts in my diet.
Sort of combining a lot of them together, maybe in one sort of meal. Like a soup's going to have a number of different things in it. A fruit salad's going to have a number of different things in it as well. So
it's about being more mindful of increasing your fibre. I would also say at this stage as well, it's not really recommended to make massive fibre changes really fast. It should be a really gradual process. You don't want to upset your gut. If you're going from 10 grams a day to 30 and over a few days, you might end up upsetting your stomach or giving yourself a few gut symptoms while your body gets used to it. So I think one thing is, if you're going to do that, then do it gradually. Make sure you're staying hydrated, and you'll also be able to make that change in a really reasonable amount of time as well. It's not something where you're going to feel like I've got to do all this at once and it's really hard and then you stop doing it.
It's kind of like a gradual adjustment, isn't it?
Well, that's it. It's a
gradual. You chuck everything at it in the kitchen sink, and then suddenly you kind of, as you say, you're upsetting your gut. I mean, just kind of phasing it in over time and working up towards that and seeing that as a bit of a kind of target to aim for, just to kind of gradually increase it rather than, as you say, that kind of saturation, like, poof, everything's in this now.
Yeah, and adding it and seeing how you feel. Go with how you feel. You'll know yourself whether you've increased the fibre in a day than you normally would. See how you feel for a couple of days and then add another wee bit and then another wee bit until you think, right, I'm hitting the 30. You're probably going to have to get to 30 grams, you're probably going to have to read labels. I know that's really hard for some people. There's lots of apps that help you. But if you want to reach your 30 and see what that looks like, it's just being more mindful of what that looks like. And once you've done it a few times, you'll know how much fibre is in your diet in a day and whether you're hitting that target anyway. It's going to take time. It's if you're not used to eating 30 grams, it's going to take a bit of time for you to reach that goal. And it's not easy, but you'll feel the benefit. As you're doing, feel the benefit, and then you'll start slowly adding more and more. You'll think, oh, God, I'm feeling a lot better.
Yeah. And that's what we want. I mean, you want people on that kind of positive health journey and feeling better and within themselves, aren't we? Really, in a lot of the kind of stuff that's happening inside of your gut is really important, that you're getting some good fibre in there. That's what we've kind of talked about today. But obviously in future pods, gut health, I think, is going to be the sort of part 2 version of what we've been moving on from today. The second sort of part on your pod series is looking at focusing on improving your gut health specifically. So this has been a nice sort of lead into that.
Yeah, I think part 2, I didn't want to do too much. Part 2 is looking at the gut microbiome in a bit more detail, and the 30 plants a week, which is fairly new, coming out, which sounds really hard, but it's not. I promise it's not. I just didn't want to do too much for this. But the 30 plants a week and the gut health and the polyphenols and the gut microbiome all work really nicely with fibre. So I wanted to do a wee intro to fibre. But yeah, part 2 is all about the 30 plants, really. So stay tuned. Stay tuned,
listeners.
And actually, if any listeners want any other topic within that discussed, let me know, and I'll try and
add in the comments. Yeah,
my plan. Put it in the comments or send us an email.
Perfect. No, I really, really appreciate your time. I think it's been really interesting just to kind of find out, even just kind of talking it through with you. I've kind of feel like I've built my own sort of knowledge, which was fairly limited around sort of fibre and I suppose the underratedness of it. But hopefully it's a bit more on people's radar now, and I'm going to value the kind of importance of fibre. So thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to hearing more from you in some future pods.
Great, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.